Hello, and welcome to an intro to Anthro with two humans. I'm human number one, John McCrae.
And I'm human number two, John Lear.
And this is the podcast where we reassess what it means to be human. And the title of this episode is, well, sex me up and call me bad, a kaleidoscopic look at colors. And John, today we are going to be talking and looking at colors.
Excellent.
How humans perceive colors, why we develop color vision, and why different colors signify different things in different cultures.
I'm wearing a very brightly colored T-shirt in honor of our. I normally don't wear this color.
I know you're muted. You're like whites and browns and
I'm very fall. Yeah. But I'm really coming out strong today.
Yeah. And that's a political shirt too. I mean, if you want to,
it's
a little political messaging there.
Yes, it's well, you can probably guess who's in jail and who's out.
who's not going by go. So
I'm in Chicago, so I get real political when I'm coming to you from Chicago again. When I'm in Chicago, man, I don't know.
Look at you.
Yeah.
It looks like you're upstairs in a 2-story Chicago balloon frame house, I bet.
Yes. It's an amazing, wonderful, classic Chicago house. I'm walking distance from Wrigley Field. It's very warm and humid out, and the locusts are, you might hear a few locusts in the background. It's a classic.
Do you have the window open?
Yeah.
Is it?
The air conditioning's on. It's hot, man. But you can hear them through the windows. I mean, those locusts are loud.
Yeah, I miss those things. Yeah, it's like cool it, dude. Cool it,
dude. Like, God damn.
Yeah. I miss those. I forget that they in the Midwest you have the
soothing. It really makes you kind of chill out at the end of the day. It's very nice.
It's meditative. It kind of puts you in a trance when you go outside.
Yeah.
All right, John. So what we're going to be, I was thinking about colors and living in the modern world where we're surrounded by brightly colored clothing like you have on, and advertising and video games and cars, hairdos even, and food, we may begin to take colors for granted.
Yes.
And we may forget that we are living in the most colorful period in human history.
That's right. It wasn't always like this.
I know. For probably 30,000 years, it wasn't like this.
Yeah.
But thanks to advances in color dyes and pigments in the mid-1800s, each time you walk into a grocery store or Walmart or Target, you are seeing colors that our ancestors may have only seen once in their lifetimes.
Right.
And the colors they saw wouldn't have been as vibrant as the colors you see in, say, a pack of Skittles or a box of Fruit Loops.
That's damn great.
And even if they did see these colors, they probably could have never afforded them because vibrant color was both rare and it was expensive. So like those Fruit Loops would have been served only on special occasions, probably at weddings or funerals. And if you had gone to school with Michelangelo, he probably would have traded the David to you for a pack of Skittles and a box of crayons.
He would. And by the way, you to serve Fruit Loops at my funeral. If you, I'm putting that out there now. So.
That's what you've seen that she'll have a different appreciation for them. I think.
Yeah. I was just.
I was also thinking about you.
I'm sorry. I was just at a funeral where the woman who died wrapped her coffin in bright stripes, like she was like a fashionista, and she had it was so great. It was so awesome.
Oh, nice. What color were the stripes? Do you remember?
They were some designer, Todd. God, I don't know. I don't know, but they were like, um, thin and thick lines of different colors. It was really, they were really
Yeah,
nice. It was, really, yeah. It's some like branding for one of the one designer, clothing designer, but I don't can't remember which one. I want to
yeah,
say Todd Smith, but I think that's the maker of a bunch of juggling clubs that I used to buy back in the day. So that
yeah.
can't be right.
But it was on the outside of the casket, you say?
Yeah,
On
she
the
had it
outside of the
wrapped
casket.
just like a car, you can wrap a car. So she had the casket,
Yeah.
she had it in her will that she wanted it wrapped. She knew she was dying.
Oh,
She was,
that's beautiful. That's
yeah,
beautiful.
she was an awesome, awesome person. Yeah, she really was. Christina Dunn, who passed away recently.
Yeah. Oh, that's
R.I.P.
nice. That's
Yeah.
nice. Uh, so anyway, and also I was thinking about the purple that you see. The purple that comes to mind for me is the purple that like a coworker wears for the Minnesota Vikings jersey during football season, and they wear it
Yeah.
every Friday. And there was a time in history where only the emperor of Rome could have been able to wear that jersey, for example,
Yeah, you get your
because
head
at
cut
that
off.
time, right, right, because Tyrian purple was so rare and expensive 2,000 years ago that only the emperor was allowed to dress in all purple. And probably with him at that time, just to show off a little bit, he probably would have worn like the bucket hat and the satin starter jacket as well, just to show how much money he had.
Even the underwear.
Uh, yeah. And according to James Fox in The World According to Color, in 301 AD, he says, a pound of the finest Tyrian silk was 75 times more expensive than saffron and twice as expensive as gold and 5 times the price of a healthy male slave. That's how expensive purple silk was at the time.
5 times more
And if you're
expensive than the slave? So it would have
than
been
the slave,
10
then that
times more expensive than me as a slave. If it wasn't healthy
I
enough.
know, I know. They probably would have had to give back some of the silk if they once you showed up. They'd be like, okay, all right. And if your coworker happened to show up at the Coliseum at the same time in his Vikings jersey when the Emperor was there, it probably would have been the end for your coworker because at that time, if anybody who wasn't allowed to wear purple wore purple, they could be fined, publicly humiliated, or even put to death just for wearing purple.
God damn.
Um,
And as a
so,
Chiefs
so think
fan,
about that.
yeah. And as a Chiefs fan, we beat the Minnesota Vikings in Super Bowl 3, as everyone knows, or 4, I'm sorry. So,
Yeah,
wearing that purple in
yeah.
KC might end up with the same result.
No, I was thinking about like during the Kirk Cousins time. It was kind of like the same way. They kind of like it was rough to be a Vikings fan at that time. I think it
I
was
feel
good
sorry for
times and bad
Oh
times.
my god, Vikings
Yeah,
fans. I mean, the only thing they can hang
yeah,
their hat on is purple people eaters, That's it.
yeah. Fran Tarkenton, still with
Well,
Fran Tarkenton. So
yeah, I mean,
uh,
he was an
I would,
amazing
I
player.
always they're still I mean they're up there with like the Buffalo Bill. Like I love their fans and I'd love to see them make it back to the Super Bowl, but not too soon. Not too soon. I know as a Chiefs fan there's still a part of me. I want to see you guys do it, but let me have a couple more.
Wow,
So
wow.
um and that probably could, if you think about like even in Gladiator, like you could do Gladiator 3, where like a Vikings fan, like Ridley Scott's time travel tale, where a Vikings fan goes back and he has to, like, he gets imprisoned by the Roman emperor for wearing purple. You know what I mean? But, and then also, if you remember, for many years, the only colored telephone most people could afford was black.
Yep.
The only color car they could afford was black.
Yep.
The only color suit they could afford was black. And the only color or the only TV they could afford was black and white. You know what
That's
I mean?
right.
So it's like
It
it
was a
was like you got
dour
twice as many colors for that.
I yeah. It was a very dour period of you and I growing up.
Right. Right. And even with the black and white TVs, like we forget, like it just of like all the shows, like with the grays, like between the black and the white, you would have the grays in there too. But it was very there wasn't much excitement going on the screen at the time.
No. No.
And I think we don't appreciate the millions of years of natural selection and physical evolution that had to happen before our mothers could buy us a chartreuse green sweatshirt that we absolutely hated and that we made us physically ill. And we had we wore to school only once in the eighth grade. And of course, chartreuse green, also known as chartreuse yellow, is a bright yellowish green that is named after the herbal liqueur that's made by the Carthusian monks at the Grand
Oh,
Chartreuse
don't I
Monastery in
know it.
France.
I There is still a bar in Chicago. I don't think it's around anymore. It was What was that bar that was all green? Do you remember that one? Everything about it was green. Anyway,
Oh no.
can't think of a name of it. I'll think of it in a minute. I don't think it's around anymore. But I was kicked out for drinking way too much chartreuse. We did shots of chartreuse, and my date
Oh,
went into
no.
the girls' bathroom and did something in there that got me 86 from that bar for years after. Years.
Just your tongue all green afterwards as you
Oh,
come out.
oh God. She had green all down her dress, and it was just,
Oh,
oh,
so you're familiar with the color. My mother, I'm actually referring to a sweatshirt that my mother found for me back in the late 70s on one of her many trips to Goodwill.
yeah.
And and it was a short sleeve sweatshirt, which always was kind of odd to me. Like why somebody would make a short sleeve sweatshirt.
No.
Uh, and it was completely chartreuse. It was completely chartreuse with no logos, images, or anything on it. It was just a short sleeve uh, chartreuse green sweatshirt.
That
And,
that
and my
person,
mother,
like the people who wear purple, that person should also be killed by the Romans. Whoever designed that.
well, there was a reason, I guess, why it ended up in Goodwill. But my mother, uh, she thought it looked happy, quote unquote happy, and she thought I would appreciate its joie de vivre and élan of the shirt. And and I remember one day I wore it to school, and I could just feel that chartreuse green like radiating off my cheeks and
Mm.
reflecting on the inside of my glasses. For example, so it just made everything like that whole day. Everything looked like I was looking through a chartreuse green cloud. You know, everything
You had
had a green
chartreuse
tint.
sunglasses working there.
Yeah, and I actually got I remember I got queasy and kind of pasty because of the color of the shirt, and I could see it out of the bottom of my eyes. You know, and I had a headache, and again, it was just like even my classmates would try to. I remember they tried to avoid me that day. Like when I go up and I try to talk to people, I was aware of them like averting their eyes away from me because of the chartreuse green shirt that my mother bought me. Um, and
Oh,
I
by
got
the way,
home.
sorry to interrupt, but it's Max's Tavern on Sheffield.
Max is.
That was the place. It was an all green bar that serves chartreuse shots.
I remember that. I remember Max's. Yeah, you should go down. I'm sure they've forgotten by now. Go down. Order two
You
chartreuse.
get the fuck out of here.
Give me a three fingers of chartreuse on them. um, anyway, but I went home and I never wore that shirt again. But I think that gives you a little idea of like the power of colors because it
Yeah.
like physically made me ill. And my mother, of course, was disappointed about it. I remember she she took it back to Goodwill, donated it back to Goodwill, and and I just always imagined that that shirt was just like hanging out there waiting for somebody. It was like the Annabelle doll. You know the Annabelle doll. It's just
Right.
like it's just
That
waiting. It's just waiting there
sweatshirt,
for somebody to.
whoever wore that sweatshirt got a horrible headache and lost friends.
Yeah, we should pitch that to Blumhouse. It could be part of a
Yeah.
new franchise of like
The
the
sweatshirt.
chartreuse sweatshirt,
Yeah, I like it. I like that.
the the chartreuse shirt, the awakening. You know, or whatever. But again, I think that gives you an idea of both the physical and emotional power of colors. And the reason I called this a kaleidoscopic look at colors is that there's no way we can cover everything about colors in one episode on this
No,
one. There's just too much.
but
And
we're gonna
and the
try. We're
more
gonna try, right?
yeah, we're gonna hit some highlights. The more I researched this one, the more fascinated I became. I just kept taking more and more notes. I finally was like, I gotta cut myself off on this one. Uh, but the thing is, some people do. There's a few different ways the books I was reading would cover colors, and some people would try to go. They give a brief overview of color vision, and then break out the information to a history of each individual color, some of the high points of each one. So I may post some of that stuff on our Facebook or on our Instagram or even our Substack. Now we're on
Yeah.
Substack now as well.
Way to plug the Substack.
so so we will hit as much as we can. But when I was thinking about how to organize this show, I thought of a kaleidoscope. And as the Encyclopedia Britannica says, a kaleidoscope is an optical device consisting of mirrors that reflect images of bits of colored glass in a symmetrical geometric design through a viewer. The design may be changed endlessly by rotating the section containing the loose fragments.
Then
And
they're
the name
great
is
when
a
you're stoned out of your mind.
right, right. And the name is derived from the Greek words kalos, meaning beautiful, eidos, meaning form, and scopain, meaning to view. So beautiful form to view. Think about that next time you're stoned looking at that thing.
Yeah. Whoa, you're blowing my mind.
And apparently, the kaleidoscope was invented in 1816 by a guy in England named Sir David Brewster.
Way to
And
go,
for some reason,
Brewster.
but that's I know, but that seemed like a little late to me. I thought that would have been like invented by an ancient Greek like Archimedes or Leonardo da
Yeah, you're
Vinci
right.
or in the Renaissance. But
Yeah,
1816 seems a little late to me.
yeah.
And it also seems like the kaleidoscope would be, it's one of those where I'm sure when Sir David went to a party and he said to somebody, like when they asked him, well, what do you do? And he's like, well, I invented the kaleidoscope. I'm sure people were like, like, oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I invented the tube, or something like that. I'm sure that they,
But then if he could prove it, if he could actually prove that he invented the kaleidoscope, then they'd be like,
yeah.
"Holy you!" It's like it's like when people
Yeah.
find out I was the Geico caveman. They're like, "What?" He must have been
Yeah.
huge. That's when
Do you
Brewster
have
would have
one?
been
Do you
like,
have one here?
yeah. How do they work? What the
Yeah, probably.
fuck?
Yeah. You doing that? But I'm sure it was just like yeah, he probably had to carry one with him all day. Well, I mean, before television, they had to get out the kaleidoscope. Um, so I thought it was when we look at this topic, we're not going to look at it in a linear way, but we're going to like a kaleidoscope. We're going to kind of twist it around and just find some important and salient points about
Oh,
colors. So,
Okay. Wow. There's a lot
and
under the covers on this show. You know, you peel back the
I
layers
know,
and
I
you
know.
learn and you learn and you learn.
But now you get to see the skeleton of it all,
Uh-huh.
the bones of
The
the
bones.
beast.
Excellent. Excellent.
Uh, and this topic actually came to me from my wife, Mary, who several months ago asked, "Why do colors mean different things in different countries?" was Mary's question.
Okay.
And in fact, she may have been thinking out loud because when I told her I was doing her episode on colors, she had no idea what I was talking about. she
Like, what? I don't
yeah, she was
remember.
like, "What? My?" But I swear I heard it, and I wasn't going to let that question go unanswered. So, Mary, if you weren't asking me this question about colors, it's too late. We've already done
Yeah.
an episode on it, and
Yeah.
it's been attributed to you. So,
Yeah.
enjoy the socks.
Mhm.
And real quick, John, just an aside, the title of today's episode is a reference to the 1990s R&B group Color Me Bad with two
Yeah.
D's
I
and their
don't remember.
1991 hit
What's the hit? I don't what is the hit?
I Want to Sex You Up. I Want to Sex You Up.
Right. Oh, right. Yes, that's the hit. Yeah, I vaguely remember that. I'm gonna have to once we get offline so I don't break any copyright rules, I'm gonna have to listen to that one. You can't hum us a few
It,
bars, can you?
no, well, I, I mean, you'll get it. You'll get it once it'll come back to you. And according to Wikipedia, the song went to number one on the UK singles chart, and it went to number two in the US.
Wow.
I Want to Sex You Up. And it also, according to Wikipedia, it won the Soul Train Music Award for Best R&B Soul Single Group, Band, or Duo, and the Soul Train Music Award for Best R&B Soul Song of the Year for 1992.
Holy crap. Who
Which
knew?
also surprises me. Which also surprises me, because it's no Teddy Pendergrass. Turn off the lights. You know what I mean? I mean that
Right,
song. Turn off the lights.
But where was Soul Train in 1992? I mean, you know, that they've got was it on the air in 92?
Yeah, it was still on the air in '92, and they were still doing the awards for it. But yeah, it's like Wikipedia notes that a reviewer for Cashbox magazine, which used to be like the Billboard back in the day,
Right.
when they were talking about "I Want to Sex You Up" at the time, they said it was quote naughty and suggestive, yet not particularly explicit.
Uh-huh.
So,
Yeah. That's like
I
when
mean, Teddy
you mow
Pendergrass. It's like you.
yeah, it's like when you mow a lawn and you mow around just around the edges. That's all it did. Sex you up. It just mowed around the edges.
yeah, yeah. I was gonna say Teddy Pendergrass. You had to get you had to smoke a cigarette and get a pregnancy test after listening to that his song. Turn out the lights. That thing is.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, when I first heard back in the '90s, I heard "I Want to Sex You Up." I wasn't really that into it. I wasn't. I thought it was kind of lame. And when I was researching this episode, I went back and I listened to it again, and now I think, hey, that's kind of hot. That's-
That's good. You're
so,
open to
well,
new ways of thinking. You're an open-minded person.
I don't know. I think it's more. It's the 25-year-old me didn't think it was that. Uh, the 25-year-old me who could actually sex you up that thought it was kind of lame, but the 60-year-old me who's like may or may not sex you up is
Oh,
now thinking it's kind of hot. So uh, color me bad. Don't think don't think it's you're on the verge of a comeback. I mean, it's this is just some old guy who suddenly listened to it 30 years later who's like, hey, that's kind of hot. That's
not
kind of
bad.
hot.
Not bad.
We we should play it at old folks' homes and see if there's an uptick in their like life expectancy after that. So enough of this. The intro. Let's go ahead and get started on our discussion about colors. In his book, The World According to Color, James Fox quotes the French painter Paul Cézanne, who said, "Color is the place where our brain and the universe meet."
Ooh.
And and
Really?
I think that's a
Wait,
yeah,
that's the place where our brain and the universe meet with color? I
right,
don't
right.
know. I'm gonna put an asterisk by that one.
Well, I think it's a beautiful quote because, first of all, color really does make the world more interesting. Obviously, that's why we don't have. You can't even find a black and white TV anymore. I don't think.
No.
Uh, and also, it, humans just love colors. They just love colors. And I think that that quote by Cezanne is also appropriate because, from a physics standpoint, color really is a product of the interaction between the universe in the form of electromagnetic energy or light and our brains. And when trying to explain color, Fox notes that many people have tried the common sense view that color is an objective property of things or of the
No.
light that bounces off them.
Yeah. It is not
and,
objective.
and he says also, others argue that color doesn't inhabit the physical world at all, but exists only in the eye or mind of the beholder. And
Right.
they say
I
there
agree
is
with
no
that.
such thing as color except for the people who see it. So that's what you're saying. You're
Yes.
saying it's
Yeah, and who knows if you're seeing the same orange that I'm seeing? You're seeing your orange, I'm seeing my orange. We just agree to call it orange, but that doesn't a dog doesn't see orange apparently. They see black and
right,
white and
right.
red, I guess. I don't know. But yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Well, that's what Fox ultimately says. He goes, both positions are in a way correct. In other words, color is both objective and subjective.
Oh.
And and so to go into a little more detail about that, to say what color is from an objective perspective, we start with light. And because Fox says without light, there is no color. And if I
Yes.
was doing this show, this lecture in a theater, now is the time that I would cut the lights dramatically.
Oh, all right. If anybody's watching this on YouTube, shut it
Turn
down.
it out.
Yeah.
Turn it out. And then I would slowly bring up the gels, different colored gels,
Oh.
to show the effect that light has on our perception of color.
Ooh,
Uh,
nice.
but unfortunately, we're not in a theater. We're not in a theater.
Yeah.
So I just want to mention I read a lot of great explanations about how light and our brains come together to make color or what we perceive as color. And the explanation I found in James Fox's book, The World According to Color, was the easiest one for me to understand.
Okay.
And so it may have been because I'd read so many other explanations of it that it finally clicked for me when I was reading his. But I just want to say that I'm going to rely upon his explanation of color heavily in this next section. And
Okay.
his book, and also Victoria Finley's book, Color: A Natural History of the Palette. And between those two sources, I think we'll end up with a pretty good understanding of how color works.
I
Um,
trust you implicitly. Implicity.
okay, but I have I if you go on to the Podbean site, you'll get the full list of references that we use,
Yes.
and you'll get
And we also
yeah,
post those on our YouTube. We post them everywhere. So
yeah,
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 those references are out there. We like to give credit to the people we're
right,
talking about. That's important to us.
exactly.
Mhm.
Uh, very academic that way. I think we're very academic that we always cite our sources.
Yes. Well,
So going up,
you're
so Fox notes
you're the
that
one who cites all of our sources. Yeah.
yeah, you do too. You do too.
I just
So
I
Fox
just
notes that,
copy and paste them into the proper box on
yeah,
a when we post an episode. But it takes
yeah,
two. Takes two. Takes two.
yeah, yeah. Don't sell yourself short. You're doing it. You're doing it. So Fox notes that light belongs to a vast spectrum of electromagnetic radiation, which varies by wavelength and frequency. Or as Victoria Finlay says in her book, everything in the universe, whether it is classified as solid or liquid or gas or even vacuum, is shimmering and vibrating and constantly changing. And that's
Mm.
before you even drop acid. So,
Damn.
and I myself like both of these descriptions, that everything around us is actually a product of energy, and that energy is shimmering and vibrating and constantly changing. I love that. That makes the
Me
world
too.
much more interesting to me. And Fox says that at one end of the electromagnetic spectrum, gamma ray wavelengths are 100 million times shorter than a millimeter.
Damn.
Okay, 100 million times shorter than a millimeter. At the other end, extremely low frequency radiation wavelengths are tens of thousands of kilometers long.
Damn.
Okay, so you go. And he says that this electromagnetic radiation is responsible for everything from the x rays we get at the dentist's office to ultraviolet radiation that gives us sunburns to infrared heat in our back massagers to microwaves in our kitchens to radio waves. So, all of that energy are electromagnetic radiation.
Yes.
And
They're all on that
in the
spectrum that if you hold up, it's like Pink Floyd's album. You know? You hold up a crystal and that white light breaks up into that spectrum. And that's what we're talking
that
about.
is. So, and again, in the middle of that spectrum, there's a small band of radiation that's visible to us, and that band is called visible light.
Yeah.
And
Good
Fox
name.
says that even
That's
though
a
it
good
makes up
name
only
for visible light. You know? Don't
visible light,
fuck around, just say it's
right?
visible light. Thank you.
I'm sure they tried to come up with something clever, and it was like, no, no, no. Just
No.
I keep going back the whiteboard. We keep workshopping it. Put it to the table. Put it to the table. And at a certain point, they just ran through the bees and said, like, you know what? Let's just call it visible light and move on. We'll just move on. So Fox says even though it makes up only 0.0035% of the electromagnetic spectrum, visible light is responsible for all the colors that every human has ever experienced. Okay. So at a wavelength of about 400 nanometers, and there are a million nanometers in a millimeter, ultraviolet blossoms into violet, then bleeds into blue, then green, yellow, orange, and red comes in at about 610 to 700 nanometers. And then it slips into infrared and heads out of sight again. Okay.
Yeah.
So and in addition to that, Fox says that light is made up of little packets of energy known as photons. Okay. And he explains that all materials have different structures which interact with photons differently. So some reflect much of the light back and thus appear white, others absorb much of it and appear black. Or as Victoria Finlay describes it a little differently, she says that colors appear because the objects absorb some of the white light and reject the rest.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Uh-huh. Yep.
So 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 when we see an object that looks green, what we're actually seeing as green is the object absorbing all the colored wavelengths except the green wavelengths.
Right.
And,
That's the one that it reflects back, and that's what we see.
right, right. And
My
so
orange,
Fox
my
says
orange shirt, it's somewhere closer on the towards the infrared part of the spectrum. Orange. I don't know where orange falls, but anyway.
it's over by the red. It's like
Yeah.
590 to 630 nanometers. But the
Okay.
thing
That's
is, that shirt is actually that shirt is actually reflecting back the
right.
orange. It's absorbing everything except orange. And
Yes.
that leads Fox to say, in nearly all cases, objects paradoxically take on the color they don't possess. If that makes
Wow.
sense.
Wow.
The one that their surface reflects. And Victoria Finlay says, when our eyes see the whole range of visible light together, they read it as white. When some of the wavelengths are missing, they see it as colored. And in other words, she says a red tomato is actually one that contains every wavelength except red. so, so, so using your shirt as an example, John, your shirt is even though we're seeing it as the orange, it is everything except orange.
So let's just call this accept orange.
Yeah. And Finley says a good way of looking at color, therefore, is that instead of thinking of something being a color, we should think of it as doing a color. But we're not done yet. And as Fox says, that in order to produce color, we need light. And what you mentioned already, John, too, you said we need a perceiver. And that's where
Yeah.
we come in as the
Yes.
humans.
Yes.
And some of that light that's out there in the universe finds its way into our eyeballs. And in our eyes, Fox says, we have about 100 million photoreceptors. And the majority of these photoreceptors are rod cells.
I
And
knew we
rod
were going to
cells,
get to the rods and cones. I knew that was
right.
coming.
It was on its way. So the rod cells are sensitive to light and distinguish between light and dark, but they don't see color. And for color, we have about 4 to 5 million photoreceptors called cone cells. And according to Fox, most humans possess 3 classes of cone cells. We have S cones, which are sensitive to short wavelengths of electromagnetic energy. M cones, which are sensitive to medium wavelengths of electromagnetic energy, and we have L cones, which obviously are sensitive to long wavelengths.
Whoever
And
is naming everything in this world with the visible light and the M, L, and S cones, very literal. And I just want to point out that I wish more scientists went down this road. It's easier for us
me
laymen to
too.
understand. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you,
Although
visible
I have to
people.
admit, I have to admit, when I was taking notes, I was writing down like S cone. I wonder what that stands for, and it was like, oh, yeah. It all dawned on me. I had to read 3 books about it before it dawned on me.
Just
Uh,
crazy that our eyes have these cones that are, it's amazing. Isn't it just amazing?
100 million photoreceptors in our eyeballs. It's like
It's so crazy.
the numbers astound me. The numbers astound me. And so Fox says that all cones contain a pigment molecule consisting of a curved chain of amino acids.
Those
Okay.
amino acids
And
do a lot. Amino acids are all over the place.
I know. And so when a molecule absorbs a photon in our eye, okay, a double bond snaps, causing the chain to straighten and the molecule to change shape. And this seemingly trivial incident, Fox says, lasting just 200 millionths of a billionth of a second, underpins all human vision.
Whoa.
So, that snapping of the pigment molecule when light is absorbed by one of our cone cells, uh, it causes a reaction in the pigment molecule, and that creates a chain reaction.
And
Okay,
what have
in
I
our
done with
eyeball.
there's all of this miraculous magic going on in my body. And what have I done with it? I play video games.
I I know. That's what I was reading this and like, Jesus Christ, this really is embracing the universe. You know what I mean? This is like in 2001 Space Odyssey or something. Like when we're
Incredible.
coming to the
It's like when I'm watching porn, all those colors It's taking millions and hundreds of millions of these cones snapping and unsnapping just so I can tell that this person's, you know,
Naked, taking their
and
clothes off.
incredible. Incredible.
So continuing on, Fox says that the photoreceptors change structure. They activate a protein, which activates another protein, which converts the scattergun chaos of the photon absorption into electrical messages, and
And
those are
then we're off
transmitted.
and running. Once you got it
Right,
into electricity, the body knows what to do with it now.
right. So it snaps. You snap that pigment. It causes a chain reaction of proteins, and then that sends a binary signal, an on-off voltage change. He says that exit the eyes through the optic nerves, and until they finally reach the visual cortex at the back of the brain. So that's what actually happened.
And it's
And
all
then the
in like
brain,
real time. It's all in real time.
yeah, right. And it's happening right now. It's happening right now. Uh, and the brain then processes this information and compares all the outputs from the three classes of cones. And those three classes are red, green, blue, yellow, and black, white. And Fox says that from these three sets of comparisons, our brains are able to distinguish millions of shades and hues of color.
Holy
That's
shit.
amazing to me.
We're wasting our lives.
Yeah, it really seems like, what are you doing with your eyeballs? You know what I mean? Like, what are you
It's
looking
it's
at?
like,
Well, I'm really just.
yeah, it's like the equivalent is us using a cell phone to send stupid jokes to each other when we're using like a machine that's stronger than what landed a spaceship on Earth,
I
and
know.
we're using all of these satellites and all of these cell just to send a hoo hoo hoo.
Yeah, I know. I know. It's the same. We've been doing it with our eyes for millions of years. Uh, so finally, Fox concludes, quote, color is a process, a dance between subjects and objects, mind and matter. Different wavelengths of light exist independently of us, but they don't truly become color until our brains have finished interpreting them. And I thought,
Wow.
I love that. It's a dance, it's an interaction between the two.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is how we get down to what you were saying earlier, John, is because each of our individual brains are interpreting what our each individual cones and rods have received. Uh, that's why we get these personal differences between what a color actually is, the interpretation of what a color is.
Yes.
And folks, Fox quotes Joseph Albers in his book, The Interaction of Color, and Albers says if one says red, the name of the color, and there are 50 people listening, it can be expected that there will be 50 reds in their mind. And one can
Right.
be sure that all these reds will be very different, which is what
Yes.
you were saying.
Because of the angle, the way the light's hitting it, the way your brain interprets it, the all of it, all of it. It's amazing that we can agree on anything, really.
I know we have to, there has to be some overlap there for, but Fox even mentions that, if someone had a defect or a mutation in one of these cones or, in one of these pigment molecules, it would affect the way they interpreted a specific color. And
Yeah.
he says that roughly 8% of men lack one or more fully functional cone type and perceive fewer colors than other people.
Yeah.
And a small number of women are thought to possess a fourth cone type and
Uh-oh.
thus an extra dimension of color experience. So
Whoa.
some women are thought to have even more cones. And in the article Over the Rainbow How Culture Shapes Color, Nicola Jones says that some people are born with genes for both a normal set of L cones, which are the long wavelengths, and an altered set. And these are called tetrachromates, who effectively have four types of cones and thus seem to see colors slightly differently. They are sometimes
Whoa.
called super seers. So some
Whoa.
people, yeah, yeah.
We need to get
Uh,
one of those people on
whereas,
the show. We need to but then
I
again, it's
know,
so subjective. What will we talk about? They're like, I see it differently than you, but
yeah,
yeah.
I know, but isn't that amazing? They're seeing like some sort of enhanced color more because they have four sets of cones,
Right. But
four
they have
sets of
no
different types of pigments.
right. But they have no clue that they are because it's all subjective. It's just what they see and what we
Right,
see.
right. Uh, and Jones notes that some people, have a defective or missing short, medium, or long cone, and each variant comes with a different set of impacts on color vision. So the most common, a defective medium cone, causes red-green color blindness. So that's pretty
Yes.
common. I'm sure
Our
if
friend
people see it,
Jim
but that's
has
coming
that,
from a.
I believe. He had
I
that red
know
green,
that.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I remember when people, when someone first said to him, "Why do you always wear green sweaters?" And I was there at the time when he was like, "What do you mean? I only?" He had no idea. He had always thought he was wearing gray sweaters. You know. Um,
Uh,
I also here in Albuquerque have a really good friend of mine who he started a program where he would purchase color correcting glasses for high school students in Rio Rancho. And he invited me out to one of the series. He does it every year. He gives out like 15 pairs of these. Um, and anyway, I went to it one time, and he had told me like it will blow you away when you see these kids put these glasses on. And sure enough, it was like people were just like, "Oh my god!" It was like the grass. Look at the grass. It's like they're like stoned or something. They're all walking
yeah.
around like feeling stuff, and
You
but it's
know,
amazing.
I was like that when I got glasses for the first time, just in terms of the focus. Like my eyes
Yeah,
had
yeah.
slowly gotten worse and worse, and I put glasses on the first time in my life, and I was like, "Oh my god, those I can." Grass is not just a carpet of green; it's individual, you know,
Yeah,
plants.
there are there are wires between those poles out there on the street, or whatever it was.
Uh,
Uh, Interestingly, Jones says that a final variation is that some people can see past the end of the rainbow into the ultraviolet,
whoa,
just like bees, butterflies, and other insects. And
whoa!
it turns out that the human cones and brain can detect ultraviolet light, but our lenses usually filter it out. And some people who have had cataract surgery, in which the lens is either removed or replaced with an artificial substitute, start to see ultraviolet.
What? So, what is
Yeah.
ultraviolet? What do they see? How do they describe it?
Well, they seem to think, or the way people have described it, it's kind of a whitish, wispyish blue light that they're
Yeah,
seeing.
makes sense.
And
Yeah.
in and in fact, Claude Monet, the painter, was supposed to have developed this condition later in his life after he had cataract surgery when he was in his 80s. And some people say that that's why his paintings, like his water lilies, became a little bit more bluish at the end of his career. And
Interesting.
Adnan Kablawi, in an article in ArtNet, notes that Monet developed cataracts in his 70s and was losing his sight. And if you look at some of his paintings during his cataract period, he has like really he would had developed just habits to where so they could keep painting even though he couldn't really see the canvas. And he has
Wow.
just a lot of reds in there and a lot of oranges, and you can't really make out any shapes of anything during his cataract paintings. And Kablawi says his coarse brushstrokes belied the appearance of distinctive figures, veering his work into the realm of abstraction. And so some people now think that, Monet's uh, cataract paintings were important, even though Monet hated them later after he'd had his cataract surgery. But they say that they think that those were important because they kind of were a stepping stone to some of the abstract painters. Um,
Uh-huh.
but the
Interesting.
so in January 1923, Monet decided to finally have eye surgery. And by the way, eye surgery now scares the hell out of me.
Yeah.
I can't imagine having eye
1923.
surgery.
Yeah, they take the eyeball out and toss it around, and you oh my god.
Yeah, I'm sure is ever like the surgeon comes in like after lunch like licking his fingers, then going over there to Monet's pop his corneas out or something.
Uh-huh. Give me
But
his
they said that
eyeball. I'll put it in my mouth and clean it off a little. Okay, put it back in.
there we go, there we go. But they say after his surgery or surgeries, because there were several of them that he had to have, Monet went back to painting his water lilies, and Kablawi says, as fate would have it, the eye operations had not only restored his vision, but enhanced it by unlocking part of the ultraviolet spectrum.
Wow.
And they call this bee that because this is the light that bees and insects are supposed to see. They call this bee purple, BEE purple. And Kablawi says Monet's ophthalmological surgery did not give him new cones, rather, it removed the lens of his eyes, which normally filters out UV light, obstructing humans from detecting it. So at 85 years old, Kablawi says Monet's magnificent eye gained access to the secret world of bee purple. And if you look at the works
Whoa,
that Monet
that's
did from nine,
freaking me out.
no, no. If you look at the works that Monet did from 1915 to 1926, which includes the water lilies, you will see that they have a very interesting use of purples and indigos,
Yeah,
which
it's true.
Monet wasn't using during his cataract period. Um, I'm thinking, it's possible they just forgot to put the lenses back in. I don't know. I mean, like,
Hey, what's
yeah,
this? Oh,
yeah,
Jesus. Throw it away. Throw it away. Throw it away.
yeah. Just get a Kleenex and throw it away. Like you just see him like a couple after he's already walked out. You look down
Yeah.
and you see like a couple of shriveled up corneas there on there.
Or one of the doctors is like talking to him, and the other doctor's like, hey, what's that stuck to your sheet? What do you mean? It's his cornea.
Oh,
Oh,
oh no!
Jesus.
Don't say anything. You can't say anything.
Yeah.
Um, I was thinking it reminded me of when my mom had her cataract surgery. I remember asking her how she liked it, and she had mentioned that well, my mom, she's like, well, I always thought my walls in my apartment were beige, and it turns out they're white. So she'd actually, it's kind of the same thing, I guess. Only,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, and it also kind of reminded me of remember those X-ray spec glasses you used to be able to buy in the
Yes.
back of, comic
Yeah.
books.
Yeah.
They'd always show the guy like looking at his hand, with the X-ray specs on. You
Woo!
could see his bones. And there was always like a voluptuous woman behind him, with
Yeah.
the
Which is
implication that you
why,
could see through clothes.
yeah, that's why everybody bought them, because we're all fucking twisted people who waste a miraculous brain and body and turn it into just wanting to see through dresses.
I know. Well,
Jesus.
I looked up on a website called Nostalgia Central, and they're very funny. And they said that the original X-ray specs put a feather between two layers of cardboard, and that refracted the light and gave you the idea that you were actually seeing the bones inside your hand.
That's genius.
And yeah, and Nostalgia Central had a funny line. They said, quote, sadly, when used in the playground, you simply saw through the claims in the advert and realized you'd wasted a week's pocket money to look like a gullible pervert.
God, I
And I'm
remember
like,
seeing
ain't
those.
that yeah, ain't that the story of my life, buddy?
Yep.
It's a
Yep.
gullible pervert. Don't
Just a
get me started on
gullible
the sea
pervert.
monkeys.
Yep.
Uh, so now we're going to move into John. Why did humans develop color vision? And in the article titled "Why Red is Such a Potent Color," which is in the textbook Evolution and Prehistory, The Human Challenge. Meredith Small says that a lot of animals, particularly animals that are nocturnal, don't see the full color spectrum
Right.
because they don't need to see it.
Right.
For example, owls and foxes are basically colorblind. So,
They don't need it. What do
uh,
they need to see yellow for? They don't need that.
right, right. Uh, and in the past, our primitive primate ancestors saw mostly greens and blues. Okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
But then when monkeys came around 34 million years ago, Small says that they evolved to see the color red. Okay. And the reason that was important was that when monkeys were looking for food in the jungle, which is a bunch of green, it became advantageous to be able to see reds and yellows and oranges because reds and yellows and oranges are the color of ripe fruit. Okay, and why
Right.
was it important to
And you
see
want to be
ripe
able to
fruits?
distinguish that from the green bullshit. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And the problem is like unripe fruit, which is green, had fewer carbohydrates. It was harder to digest, and it
Yeah.
just tasted bad. So
Right.
we developed the color vision in order to be able to see that
Food.
fruit to pick it out. Yeah.
Yep.
Uh,
It all this shit, all of our episodes, they all boil down to either food or fucking. That's it.
I know that's really about it. I was trying to think of an example that I could give
Yep.
people, and I was thinking, like, if, say, for example, you somebody had given you a big box of chocolates, and you were everybody in your family, you liked it. You realized that everybody in your family also liked all the toffees and the caramels, and nobody liked any of the other chocolates. And you were
Yeah.
trying to, you were all going in there, pinching the chocolates. You were all sniffing the chocolates, taking a bite, putting it back, and there'd be a lot of competition for the toffees and the caramels. And I was thinking, if you had a mutation, imagine that if you had a mutation that you could see all those wonderful browns, and you could tell a difference between the coffees or the toffees and the caramels that your family couldn't. Then you could go in there and you could just pick out the toffees and the caramels
That'd
immediately.
be
And so
amazing.
that's kind of what yeah. So that's kind of an analogy to think about what was happening. Is like uh our ancestors developed this just to give us an advantage to go out there and get the ripe fruit away from all the other competitors that were out there. So,
All those cones, all
um,
those rods, hundreds and hundreds of millions just to find an
yeah,
apple. Jesus.
just to make it easier for us to do it. Uh, and so then now let's go ahead and we'll turn the kaleidoscope one more time, John, and we'll talk about another important event. Another important event in color history. And you mentioned it kind of already. And that was in 1666, Sir Isaac Newton performed an experiment which seems rather simple and obvious now, but was revolutionary at the time. And that was when he took a prism and he held it up to a little beam of sunlight. And what happened was it broke up all of those different colors that make up sunlight, the white light of sunlight, into all of those different colors that we see in the rainbow. But what
Yeah.
was even more important for what Newton did is he put another one, another one in between the first prism, and he was able to put them back together again. And apparently that's what kind of astounded everybody. Not that the first prism broke them apart, was that he was able to turn over the other prism and put all of those beams back together into white light again. Uh, so it was, and to me, I just imagine him like sitting in his dorm room at Cambridge or whatever, just like, hey man, it'd be like, all he's missing is a bong and a Doors poster or something. You know what I mean? But
Dude, look what I done. This is gonna freak you out.
right, and so it took him like he did that in 1666, and then it took him until 1704 to publish his book called Optics, where he explained what had happened when he had done all this. Uh, and as you mentioned already, it's like that's basically what you're seeing on the Pink Floyd album cover. It's like is that
Yeah.
prism breaking up off? Yeah.
Yep.
But the
Which is
reason I bring
very
this up is
strange
that
because you can time, everyone knows you can time the album Dark Side of the Moon to The Wizard of Oz,
yeah,
and it when it goes from black and white to The Wizard of Oz, and then it goes color when she's on Oz, the music
right.
times to that perfectly. And yet on the cover of the album is a prism breaking up light. I mean, come on.
It gives a whole other another dimension to think about when you're watching
It's
that.
freaking me
I didn't even
out.
think about that.
My toes and rods are on fire right now.
uh, the thing is, though, not everybody was happy with Newton's experiment. Okay, with his findings.
I'm
So, what was a
shocked.
great discovery? So Finley says that the poet John Keats later supposedly said that Newton had quote destroyed all the poetry of the rainbow by reducing it to prismatic colors. So, in other words, for thousands of years, color and light had been the exclusive domain of poets and painters and writers. And now here come the scientists encroaching on the artist's turf. Yeah. So, and what they were
Oh,
trying to do, if you
Keats.
think about all that, here they were at party, all the artists were at parties and like trying to pick up women, and all that the scientists were like, no, 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 that's not what happens with light, with sunlight. And
Yeah.
Keats' complaint is
Oh
actually
my
found in the
god.
poem Lamia, Part 2, where he says, philosophy, and in that he means science, will clip an angel's wings, conquer all mysteries by rule and line, empty the haunted air and gnomed mine, and unweave a rainbow. And by him, and that's what he was meaning by like you had taken
Oh
all of the
wow.
poetry out of art by unweaving a rainbow, is what Keats meant by that.
That's exactly what he
And
did. He did unweave a rainbow. That's so cool.
yeah,
And then he
yeah,
wove it back
and
up.
so it's
Amazing.
yeah. Yeah. Okay, so one last thing, John, we're going to talk about is how culture plays a role in our perception of color, and how sometimes culture can lead us down the wrong path in terms of the physiological conclusions. And in the book, Through the Language Glass, Why the World Looks Different in Other Languages, linguist Guy Deutscher says that for the past 150 years, there has been a war between the proponents of nature and of culture when it comes to color. And Deutscher adds that this is because in meddling with such a deep and seemingly instinctive area of perception, culture camouflages itself as nature more successfully than in any other area of language. So what he's saying is that a lot of things that people think is nature when it comes to color is the culture coming through. And that's not to say
Interesting.
that culture doesn't camouflage itself as nature and other things. He's just saying that in when it comes to color, it camouflages itself very well. And he tells a story about how back in the 1800s, before he became Prime Minister of Britain, William Gladstone was an expert on the works of the ancient Greek writer Homer. Okay. And Deutscher says that Gladstone considered Homer, quote, the most extraordinary phenomenon in the whole history of purely human culture. All right. So, so
Okay.
that's before Breaking Bad, I guess. And
Yeah.
he says, needless to say, Gladstone wasn't just an expert on Homer, he was a super fan. And I imagine that Gladstone was the type of guy who would try to work Homer into every conversation he had, probably
Yeah.
the same way I was with Marcel Proust in college. And I'm sure that as soon as Gladstone got up to speak in Parliament, somebody would be like, "Somebody, let's move to adjourn," because they knew they was going to go on about Homer. Uh, but anyway,
Oh
in
God, here comes some
1858,
more Homer.
yeah, yeah, somebody adjourn, move to adjourn. I'll second it. I'll second the motion. Uh, and in 1858, Gladstone published a 3-volume book about Homer called Studies on Homer and the Homeric Age. And it was in this
Oh
book
my
that Deutscher
God.
says,
Oh, wait, 3 volumes. Three
three
volumes.
volumes.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh,
This was before he even became prime minister. You know what I mean? It's like,
oh.
and
How
in
he
his
got
book,
elected, who knows?
yeah, Deutscher says that Gladstone committed the cardinal sin of taking Homer far too seriously. Okay, and so what happened was, as Gladstone read Homer's Iliad and Odyssey over and over again, he began to notice that Homer used some rather strange descriptions of the colors for certain objects. An example of this, and the famous one that everyone always talks about, was that Homer talked about the color of the sea. And in the Iliad and Odyssey, Homer used the term wine dark sea to describe the Aegean Sea. And wine dark sea. And for years, people tried to figure out what the hell Homer was talking about when he said wine dark sea. Was the sea purple? Was it red? And this was also complicated by the fact that, according to legend, Homer was supposed to be blind. So people were like, what exactly is Homer even seeing out there? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh, so so when it came to the description of the wine dark sea, Deutscher says that the most common answer was to suggest that Homer must have been referring to the deep purple crimson shade, such as a troubled sea has at dawn or sunset. So people tried to, or Gladstone even tried to explain what Homer was talking about by coming up with a physiological reason, something that exists out in the real world. And but Gladstone wasn't done yet. He also noticed that Homer uses the words for black and white more than any other color terms in all of his works. So this led Gladstone to the only conclusion that he thought he could draw, and that was that the ancient Greeks had to be colorblind. So, yeah, because he was like, Homer's using black and white a lot, and he talks about the wine, the wine red sea. Uh, so that was his conclusion, was that the ancient Greeks were colorblind. And Gladstone's work was followed up in the 1800s by the work of Lazarus Geiger, who was also an expert in ancient languages. And Deutscher says that Geiger noticed that it wasn't just Homer who had weird color terminologies in all the ancient languages. He said that there were many of ancient languages that didn't have a word for the color blue. And so, not only that, Geiger said that the words blue in a lot of languages seem to have evolved from words that originally meant green or black.
Wow.
And so Geiger said that all of these languages seem to follow the same general progression from the words meaning green or black to words meaning blue. And therefore, Geiger concluded that the only explanation is that there must have been some anatomical reason why ancient people couldn't see all the colors we see today. And Geiger himself never tried to explain what that reason was. He kind of left it up to all the biologists out there. Uh, but the thing is, this idea that ancient people were colorblind kind of caught on for a while. And even Alfred Russel Wallace, who was a scientist who came up with a theory of evolution by natural selection along with Darwin, he argued that colorblindness in people today must be a remnant of some physical trait that all humans had at one time. And it wasn't until 1878 when a biblical scholar named Franz Delitzsch wrote what seems obvious to us
Franz
now. And
Franz Delish?
Delitzsch, Delittzch,
Wow.
Delitzsch.
That's a great name.
And he said, Deutscher notes, or Delitzsch wrote, "We see in essence not with two eyes, but with three, with the two eyes of the body and with the eye of the mind that is behind
Uh,
them. And it
yeah,
is this eye of the mind in which the cultural, historical, progressive development of the color sense takes place. In other
interesting.
words, the brain and culture also play a role in our perception of color." And
We're learning how to see color differently over time.
right, right. But it's all
Jesus.
through culture. It's culture. And so what they did is in the late 1800s, linguists and anthropologists finally started to see that there were still languages in the world today that did not distinguish between different colors like we did in Western Europe. And it
Wow.
was not because they were colorblind. So, for example, in North America and Africa, there's certain indigenous languages that don't distinguish between green and blue. They use the same word for what we would consider to be two separate colors. Uh, James Fox notes that in Russian, there are two separate words, goluboy for light blue and sinij for dark blue, which are considered two separate colors in Russian culture, but what we would consider two shades of the same blue.
Interesting.
And there's also the Tiv people of West Africa have three basic color terms: black, white, and red. And the Baruar tribe of Australia divide the rainbow into light or bright, or dark and dull. And
Interesting.
basically, what it comes down to, this Fox notes, is that societies generally name only colors they consider important. so
Yeah.
And so after
Wow.
conducting a bunch of experiments where they basically showed color samples to people from different cultures who spoke different languages and had different color terms, anthropologists and linguists finally realized it wasn't people's physical eyesight that had changed in relation to the colors they could see, it was their cultures and languages. And Deutscher notes that what had seemed almost impossible to contemplate a few years before turned out to be a plain fact. People can spot the differences between different colors, but can still fail to give them separate names. So,
The mind is a powerful, trippy thing, man. God, we
I
can
know,
get the information. It's just like, you know, all the media outlets, you know, we can hear the other side, but we don't process it. We can
yeah,
hear it, but we don't listen. I guess it makes the same thing. It's the same thing when you can see, but it doesn't mean you're gonna process
right.
it fully. It's
And
all
you think that everybody's seeing the same thing you're seeing, but it's
no,
not the same thing you're seeing.
no.
So I think, and
Wow.
once again, it's that culture uh, camouflaged as nature, I guess. So,
Right. Right. That is awesome. Wow. I love
all
that.
right. Well, John, I'm afraid we've come to the end of our discussion. We started with "Color Me Bad." We quoted some Keats, and we ended up with Homer. So, so
Story of my life. Well, this is human number 2 signing off.
and this is Human Number One. Thanks for listening, everyone, and thanks to our listener Mary, who may or may not have suggested this topic for us. Be sure to check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Substack. And be sure to check out Watson and Company Socks, who, speaking of color, just came out with a new pastel line of
I
colors.
love them. They are a
Yeah.
huge hit. My daughter immediately stole all of mine.
Yeah, they're gorgeous. If a sock can be gorgeous, these pastel socks are gorgeous.
Look, you
Puppies
see
Not Piranhas.
pastel, all I see are light and dark.
You know what? It's still. I'm gonna accept that. We also have Puppies Not Piranhas on Etsy, and also thank you to American Karma and Media Room on Substack for all their help in getting us set up on Substack. And be sure
Yeah.
to check out the Two Humans Cave Shop at Cafe Press. All right, John. I
Right.
hope you and our listeners have a better understanding and appreciation of all the colors around us, and think about everything that's happening when you go into a Walmart or when you go into a Target and you see all those colors. It's the best time to be alive as a human when it
Imagine
comes to colors.
all the years and eons of evolution just so you can see my orange T-shirt.
I know. So, all right, you guys, we love you. Thanks, John. We'll see you guys.
Yep.
Go get sexed up.
Bye.